Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmayama upashitaha bhavo jnana tapasa bhuta madbhavamagataha. This seminar is titled The Basic Principles of Pure Devotional Service. 6 vital factors for advancement in devotional service are given by Rupa Goswami Prabhupada in his Upadeshamrita. Utsahan nishyadharyat tat tat karma pravartanat sangatyaga sito vrite shadbhya bhaktiya prasiddhyati. These are the 6 principles by which devotional success in devotional service is assured are enthusiasm, determination, patience, following the required regulated principles, giving up the association of materialistic people, and following in the footsteps of great personalities. Now, there is one vital principle which underlies these 6. The basis of these 6 factors of advancement is not mentioned directly in Upadeshamrita, but it is implied. That principle is faith. Unless one has faith in Krishna and the process of Krishna consciousness, then one will not be enthusiastic. Unless one has faith, one will not be determined. Unless one has faith, one will not be patient, and so on. All activities in Krishna consciousness are based on faith. And indeed, one's advancement is known or measured by one's degree of faith. Shadhavanjan hoy bhakti adhikari, uttam madhyam kanishta shadha anushari. One who has faith is eligible to take up devotional service. And one is understood to be on the topmost level, intermediate level, or lowest level of devotional service according to the degree of his faith. There are 3 categories, but these are in 2 broad categories. 3 categories of devotees. These are in 2 broader categories. Jar komal shadha shei kanishtajan, whose faith is very weak, they are called a kanishta or devotee in the lowest level, kanishta adhikari. Then madhyam adhikari and uttam adhikari are both described as having dridha shadha, very strong faith. So the basis is faith. That is discussed in this verse from Bhagavad-Gita that we just read, in which Krishna gives 3 reasons why people don't have faith in him. That due to strong attachment to this material world, one does not have faith in the spiritual world. If we're very strongly attached to sense enjoyment, then we take this to be real. It seems very real to us. If our emotions, our hopes, our desires are all focused on the material, then we won't have faith in any higher principle. And then there are some people who they're disgusted with this material world. Prabhupada writes in one place that this disgust with the material world, that is the beginning stage on which one can begin to advance in spiritual life. But it may be that someone is disgusted with this material world, but still their spiritual life doesn't begin. This is connected with the verse which we read yesterday, in which Krishna says that only persons of sufficient piety take to his devotional service. So, someone may become disgusted with this material world, but because they are not pious, then they instead become impersonalists or voidists, because they're afraid of the prospect of spiritual existence. They're afraid to surrender to Krishna, because all their material interactions have ended in frustration, so they're afraid to enter into any interaction even with Krishna. They don't have faith in Krishna because they're afraid. And then others, out of anger, vita, raga, bhaya, krodha. Krodha means anger. Because they think, I'm suffering so much in this material world. There can't be any God. Or if there is, it's all his fault. He's wrong. So their faith in the all goodness of the Supreme Lord does not awaken in such a person. But, Krishna says, if one can be free of this attachment, fear and anger and have faith in me, then certainly one will take up the process of Krishna consciousness very seriously. Taking shelter of me, becoming absorbed in me, Krishna says, developing knowledge of me and undertaking the required austerities to become detached from this material world. And Krishna says, many, many such persons in the past have come to me. So by saying this, Krishna is instilling faith in us. There's one seat free here. Yeah, there's another one here. Hare Krishna. One who is simple can take to devotional service. Simple means they're able to take the leap of faith. There's another seat right here. Do you have that saying in Russian, leap of faith? No, there's a saying in English, to take the leap of faith. Leap means a jump. It's a saying, a leap of faith. The idea is that just like there may be some, in the darkness, you have to cross over some river and you have to jump. You have to have faith that you can cross over. You can't see the other side, but someone tells you that yes, you can reach. You jump as far as you can reach the other side. So with faith you jump. If you don't have faith, then you won't jump and you'll always remain on this side. Now, any person who's a little bit intelligent can understand that this world stinks. What a horrible place. We're simply struggling all our lives to try to fulfill some desires, and then anyway you die. Any intelligent person can understand this world is simply full of suffering. This story of Lord Buddha that demonstrates the four miseries of birth, death, old age and disease. How he was living as a supposedly happy prince, but then he came to realize that I and everyone else in this world has to suffer birth, death, old age and disease. And there are so many other attendant sufferings also. Whatever we think of whatever we imagine will bring us happiness, always brings distress. There is nothing in this material world that brings happiness without distress also. And the distress is always more than the enjoyment. Even if it seems that my enjoyment is so much, I'm a prince, I have so much money, everything is wonderful, but we have to suffer the karmic reactions for irresponsible enjoyment. So anyway, this material world is miserable, and someone who's a little bit intelligent, they can understand this. And someone who is fortunate to associate with devotees, they can get information of the spiritual world. Now, a person who is simple can accept that. Simple here means not complicated, unnecessarily complicated intelligence. Skepticism is often considered to be highly intelligent. But by skepticism, we can't understand anything, actually. Skepticism, we doubt everything. The skeptic will doubt that even I exist or anything exists. So a skeptic cannot make any leap of faith, because he thinks that, well, now why should I jump? How can we have faith that there's something better on the other side? So someone can make that leap of faith. They can believe that there is something better, that we can say that's almost intuitive. Now, if we discuss logically in so many ways, we can also come to understand that belief in a higher and better reality is it's quite possible, even by any standard of logical analysis. But most people who take to devotional service, they don't go through a whole system of dialectic analysis to try to understand this. But rather, when they hear about Krishna and the spiritual world, then they become attracted to hearing about that. Yes, there is God. He has a very beautiful bluish figure. He plays on his flute and dances and enchants all the worlds. And we belong there. Our eternal life is with Krishna. So someone who is very fortunate, then upon hearing such descriptions, they become attracted to that. Actually, this faith in Krishna that is awakened by association with devotees, by contact with devotees. When we see devotees, that they are living, they're living representation, they're living manifestations of a higher plane of consciousness, then we become attracted to that. Pious persons become attracted to it. Because a devotee is imbued with the attractive power of Krishna. Because a devotee is Krishna conscious, then he reflects the power of Krishna. So because Krishna is all attractive and a devotee is Krishna-ized, then devotee also becomes very attractive. And by coming in contact with devotees, a pious person thinks, I would like to be like that. And even devotee he may be so powerfully Krishna conscious that sometimes he may come in contact even with atheists and demons, and they also completely change their consciousness by contact with him. Someone who is very powerful in Krishna consciousness, their Krishna consciousness can penetrate through all the envy and ignorance covering the heart of an atheist and reach through to his soul. So faith is awakened by association with devotees. That is the general principle. But any contact with Krishna can awaken faith. We see that Srila Prabhupada's books are being distributed all over the world. And many people take up Krishna consciousness even without meeting devotees. Or when they get a book, they find this so powerfully impacts their whole way of thinking that they think, I want to meet devotees and learn more about this. So in the beginning, one's faith is not very well developed, but often the faith is developed enough that people are willing to change their whole way of life just based on an initial contact with Krishna consciousness. It's a repeated scenario all over the world, how people are changing their lives. Many times we hear people say, well, my parents or my children or my friends, they are surprised at how much I have changed. How I used to be a drunkard and an atheist and so many bad things, but now I'm leading a pure life and chanting Hare Krishna. So Krishna consciousness has that powerful effect that the prospect of Krishna consciousness is so attractive that people are willing to change their whole lives. They feel compelled to change their whole lives to pursue that sublime goal of Krishna consciousness. Faith is that which impels us to change our way of life. And it is faith that sustains our activities in Krishna consciousness. And the mature fruit of that faithful pursuit of Krishna consciousness is to go back home, back to Godhead and live with Krishna eternally. However, maintaining that faith is not always very easy because Maya is very powerful. And we are living in the citadel of Maya. And Maya is always trying to call us back away from Krishna consciousness. So this whole process of Krishna consciousness is sadhana bhakti that is meant to increase our faith in and attraction for Krishna. From the very beginning of the practice of Krishna consciousness, one has some experience of Krishna. We have all, I would not hesitate to say, we have all experienced Krishna, the presence of Krishna, while chanting His holy names. We have all experienced the presence of Krishna while making great endeavors to serve Krishna. We have all experienced we have all experienced Krishna while praying to Him in His deity form. All of us who have taken to Krishna consciousness have had at various times some intense experience of Krishna consciousness. Isn't it? Sometimes Krishna gives us some special mercy, some special insights in what it would be like to be fully Krishna conscious. But then again, the curtain of Maya comes. And we realize that we have to become qualified to experience pure devotional service at every moment. We actually have to work. We have to do some work to qualify ourselves. That we have to become free from all material attachments. And we have to show Krishna that we are really sincere to serve Him and surrender to Him at every moment. And at the same time, Maya is always calling us. When we are intensely absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then Maya, everything in the material world seems to us as insignificant as a straw in the street, which actually it is. This Prabodhananda Saraswati says that Vidhi Mahendrish Kcha Kitayate, the position of Indra or Brahma to a person who's experiencing the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that position or the desire for position, it seems no more important than that of a worm. So when we're actually in Krishna consciousness, then nothing in this material world, it seems significant. It just seems just totally insignificant. But if we're not fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then we have we're attracted to Maya in so many ways. Either in a gross way for gross material sense gratification, or we may be attracted in the subtle way to the fame, the name and fame of being known as a great devotee. So in the sadhana dasha, in the state of sadhana, when one is trying to become a pure devotee, then actually it's a struggle. We're trying to be Krishna conscious, and at the same time Maya is pulling us the other way. So what will sustain us? Well, we have to get a taste for Krishna consciousness. But there may be times that we're so far away from that intense experience of Krishna consciousness that we feel, sometimes even a practicing devotee may feel a long way from Krishna. Now I just asked that, did we not all experience at some point some intense feeling of Krishna consciousness? And we got quite a few das, quite a few affirmations. But then we can also ask that in the course of our practice in Krishna consciousness, have we not at times also felt some almost emptiness, or we feel a long way from Krishna, or we feel that Maya is overwhelming us? Have we experienced that? So we're almost like on a pendulum. Pendulum, the clock, the old clocks. We're sometimes going, yes, Krishna consciousness, and other times, oh, Maya. So sometimes it may seem very easy to practice Krishna consciousness. We feel very enthusiastic. Okay, come on, let's get up in the morning, chant all our rounds, do some service. Then other times it's picking up our beads. It feels like a big chain of lead. We can hardly pick it up. So many times devotees ask, what to do in this situation? What will sustain us in such a situation? How can we go on? We have to have faith that whatever thick layers of tamagun have covered our consciousness, we should maintain the faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am His eternal servant. And however fallen, wretched, nonsense I may be, Krishna still loves me. This song, Gopinath by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is a very appropriate song for all of us struggling in this material world, trying to be Krishna conscious. We find Bhaktivinoda Thakur is expressing complete faith in Krishna, and at the same time expressing his lack of capacity to be Krishna conscious, and just calling out to Gopinath, you have to help me. So with this faith, we can keep on going. It could be that at some point we think, all right, take my beads, put them in the cupboard, lock it up. But with more faith, then however wretched we feel, then we have to go on chanting with the faith that Krishna will help us. And actually Krishna does help us. And we can all experience this also. So now comes another question. That we have all experienced Krishna helping us in our improvement in Krishna consciousness. Is it not? Anyone? Yeah, we've all experienced how Krishna is helping us. So this helps to increase our faith that Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad-Gita are not simply some dry philosophy. When Krishna says, Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatang priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. When Krishna says, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me, by those who, in their heart of hearts, they only desire to serve me with love, we can experience that. So we should remember all these times when we have experienced the mercy of Krishna. Actually, the mercy of Krishna is always there available for us. But we have to open ourselves to take that mercy. We have to have faith that Krishna wants to overwhelm us with love for Him. And if we act on that faith, then we'll find that actually it's a fact. So we should go on with our activities in Krishna consciousness. Those who have heard my lectures, they know that I'm often saying, just go on with this chanting, go on with your regular processes. Because if we go on with these, but actually we should go on with our processes, but not simply go on, but go deeper, 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 deeper. It may be that in many ways a relatively new devotee and an experienced devotee, they perform almost the same activities. That a newer devotee is rising early, chanting the holy names, performing some service. And a more experienced devotee does the same thing in the level of realization and consciousness. Because one who is more experienced, he's been through more tests. His level of surrender is more. Experience of Krishna consciousness is greater. Of course, it may be that a devotee goes on in some level of devotional service, but because of his attitude, doesn't make much advancement. It may be that someone's chanting, but to a large extent formally. For instance, if someone's, I have to chant my 16 rounds, but there's a football game on TV. So what should I do? 16, finish my rounds or watch the football? Good idea. I'll do both. I'll chant my rounds watching the game. So with this kind of compromise, we can't make very good advancement. So one has to not only go on in Krishna consciousness, but with firm determination. Otherwise, we could go on for many years at a kind of insipid or watered down level. But really to advance in Krishna consciousness, we have to be what people might call a fanatic. Now, Prabhupada didn't very much like this word, fanatic, because the stereotype of a religious fanatic is someone acting in an extreme manner without any proper knowledge. However, Lord Krishna does state in Bhagavad-Gita, Ekeha Kurunandana, one's attention should be one-pointed. Ananyas chintayanto mam, ananya cheta satatam. Ananya, Krishna says, just think of me without any deviation. So this might appear to be fanaticism, only concentrated on Krishna. But that is not fanaticism because it is based on knowledge of faith, it's based on faith in Krishna. And that faith in Krishna is based on the knowledge given in Shastra. So today's topic is faith. We always have to increase our faith in Krishna consciousness, not blind faith. Faith is based on knowledge received in scriptures. By seeing Krishna consciousness manifest in the behavior of Krishna conscious persons, and by personally experiencing in our lives how the process of Krishna consciousness brings us closer and closer to Krishna. So advancement in Krishna consciousness means to go on with the process of Krishna consciousness, always increasing our faith in Krishna. That we will do by following all the positive processes of Krishna consciousness, such as rising early, chanting, taking only Krishna prasadam, and avoiding those things which will break our faith or mitigate our faith in Krishna consciousness. That means especially associating with materialistic people, which includes watching TV, reading Kami magazines, and so on. So in this way, we continuously increase our faith in Krishna consciousness and go on. And as Krishna mentions in this verse, we're reading from Bhagavad-Gita, we can attain to Krishna by this faith in the process of Krishna consciousness. So my message to all of you, what have I come here to say to you? You have all come to listen to me with some faith. So I should say something which will be of benefit to you. So I shall say something to you which will be for your benefit, which will not be anything new or different to anything that I ever said before, but just to reiterate what I always say, which is just to go on with this Krishna consciousness process with great faith and with great seriousness, very carefully following all the principles. And in this way, we will make positive advancement on the path back to Krishna. As I was quoting Prabhupada yesterday, Prabhupada said, you just chant 16 rounds a day and follow the 4 regulated principles and you will go back to Godhead in this very life, I guarantee it. So of course, to maintain ourselves on that platform, we're going to have to follow so many other things also. So just go on, go forward. As we go on more and more in Krishna consciousness, we'll experience it as very joyful, Susukam kartam avyayam. Susukam means very joyful. It is performed very joyfully. And it goes on unlimitedly. It's not, avyayam means without diminution.
The joy.
Avyayam means it doesn't finish.
What's the practice?
The joyfulness of Krishna consciousness. Gauranga nritya nitya. That is quoted by Jagadananda Pandit. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing is eternal. Of course, there are breaks we find in Chaitanya Leela, there are breaks. He stops dancing and then they all take prasadam. They take a little rest, talk about Krishna, and then again dancing. So in this way, Gauranga nritya nitya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing is going on eternal. So let us join the Sankirtan party of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have to qualify ourselves for that by giving up all extraneous desires. That we can do if we very seriously practice devotional service. And despite our considerable lack of qualification, Nityananda Prabhu will help us if we simply try to serve the Sankirtan mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Alright, well I have lots more to say, but there isn't so much time. I'll take one or two questions. They weren't ready for that. Yeah.
You asked to do devotional service with straight face.
Yeah, that's your problem.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. This is your particular problem. Bhakta Valdas says, Valdas is it? This is always his question, I know. He's always pretending he doesn't have any faith. For years and years. I think he must be coming for, not only for the prasadam, he must be getting some faith in Krishna consciousness also. Very lovable personality. Lovable. I don't know, you have to translate it. So, what don't you believe? What's the problem?
В чем проблема? Во что вы не верите?
Practicing without faith would create more anger.
No, you won't practice if you don't have faith. That's the whole point. Anything we do with faith. When someone eats, they do so with the faith that this will nourish me. When someone walks, they have faith that the earth will support my next step. When they go running for exercise, they do so with the faith that this will benefit my health. So there's really no question of practicing Krishna consciousness without faith. At the very least, we have to have faith that there's I may not have full faith in Krishna or Krishna consciousness, but I have faith that there must be something good here, otherwise I wouldn't do it at all. We all have to have faith of some kind. Shraddhamayo yang purusha yo yat shraddha sa eva saha. Krishna says in Gita, everyone has some kind of faith, and one's faith is classified as sattvic in the mode of goodness, rajasic in the mode of passion, or tamasic in the mode of ignorance. So Krishna consciousness means to have faith in that which is, as Prabhupada used the term, sublime. Shraddha, Shraddhe, Vishwas, Kahi, Sudhrida, Nischoy, Jai Krishna Karma, Krishna Bhakti Koile, Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Krishna consciousness means to act with the faith that by doing this, everything is subsumed in it. There's no need, everything is included. Everything is complete. In the beginning we may not have such developed faith, but we have faith that there's something good here for me. Otherwise we wouldn't do it at all. What's your question?
Srila Prabhupada, you mentioned that Srila Prabhupada said that we have just to chant 16 rounds daily and follow strictly the 4 regs, and we'll go back to Godhead. So why should we then perform different austerities such as rising early, distributing his books and so on?
Do you want to say it again in the mic in Russian? No, they couldn't have heard it. Well, I actually mentioned the answer. I covered this point in the class actually, maybe. I can say it again because it's an important point. Yeah, I can say it again because it's... That we won't be able to maintain chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regular principles unless we follow all the other subsidiary rules and regulations. The example was given, why do we have to rise early? Well, if we rise late, then we'll be covered by the mode of ignorance and we won't feel any impetus to chant. We only think of these things as ascesis because we're in Maya. Otherwise, because we're thinking, actually I'd like to sleep until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that because we're thinking like that, we think it's miserable to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But if we're actually in Krishna consciousness, then it's not an austerity to get up early in the morning. It's just normal, that's all. And if by chance, due to sickness or whatever, we do get up late, then we feel, but that's not nice. Due to our diseased consciousness, we think of these things as austerity. There's another question.
What category of devotees does Krishna speak of in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, text 3? Those who have no faith, they cannot practice devotional service.
Well, they're not really devotees at all, are they, if they fall away?
Sorry?
Oh, you have to say it in Russian?
No, I just missed the beginning.
Yeah, well, they're not, they're fallen away from the category of being devotees. That means those whose faith is very weak, that means very neophyte, they can fall away. At the opening ceremony of this festival, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was talking about, well, there are people who we don't see anymore, they've gone away, they've stopped being devotees, they've stopped practicing Krishna consciousness. But I was thinking that actually, most of the devotees, what I'm seeing in Russia and neighboring countries, they're staying. There used to be a lot more turnover, but I think now more and more devotees are staying. Maybe that's because, there could be various reasons for that. I would hope that one of the reasons is the emphasis on Vaishnava education. Then our commitment to Krishna consciousness comes off the merely sentimental platform, and it becomes fixed with philosophical understanding. So please study these books. That's another of my favorite sayings. Go on reading the books. You'll always get help. We should read these books as a habit, as a fixed daily activity. And apart from knowledge of devotional service, we'll always get practical help every time we read these books. Okay, one more question.
The statement that the dancing of Lord Chaitanya is eternal, does it mean that those who are those conditioned souls, they also partake in it? And also, their deliverance of this conditioned soul, does it depend upon our efforts or upon Lord Chaitanya himself and his mercy and the efforts of his eternal associates?
It's a funny question. I don't see what the relationship is. It's hardly worth repeating it, because does bread rise because Beijing is the capital of China? It's like, two things are not connected. All right. Actually, I think what we can do, I'm here for 2 more days. I'll be here for 2 more days. So if you like, you can you can write down questions on a piece of paper, and then tomorrow after the lecture, and if there are more questions, then we can, the 4th or the final day, we can just do questions. You like that? I usually find there are so many different questions, so we can do like that. Madhurena samapayet. Everything should finish with a sweet. Does it happen today? Yeah, okay, good. So I'm leaving a little time for prasada.